Welcome back to another Story Explained / lore video. Today we discuss Dead Space. Dead Space isn't just a survival horror game. It's psychological devastation. It's betrayal, madness, and the end of humanity written in flesh and bone. So grab your plasma cutter because today we're diving deep into the full story and lore of Dead Space, the remake and the original, and all the horrifying truths that tie them together. Welcome to the Lorebatory. In the year 2008, humanity has scraped Earth dry. With natural resources depleted, the only way forward is outward. Planet cracking, ripping apart entire worlds for survival. Enter the USG Ishimura, the first and most celebrated planet cracker class ship, a flying city with one grim purpose: to carve out entire planets, extracting every last drop of usable material. But when the Ishimura sends out a mysterious distress signal from the planet Aegis 7, a small emergency repair team is sent to investigate. A simple rescue mission becomes a descent into pure hell. And at the center of it all, Isaac Clarke, an engineer armed with only his mind, his tools, and a desperate hope of finding his missing girlfriend, Dr. Nicole Brennan, stationed aboard the ship. What they find isn't silence, it screams. Isaac Clarke joins a small crew aboard the USG Killian. Among the crew members, Kendra Daniels, the systems specialist, Zach Harmon, the senior security officer, Corporal Johnson, the pilot, and Corporal Chen, security. Isaac's personal reason for the trip, as we mentioned earlier, his girlfriend, Dr. Nicole Brennan, a senior medical officer stationed on the Ishimura, and the woman who sent him a cryptic, worried message begging for help. As the Killian attempts to dock, a sudden malfunction slams them into the hangar. The ship is crippled. Inside, the Ishimura is eerily silent. Lights flicker, blood smeared on the walls. No crew in sight. Only evidence of something unspeakable. Slaughter. Then, without warning, the first Necromorphs strike. Isaac, separated from the others, runs for his life, weaponless, until he finds the engineering workshop and the tool that would define his survival. The plasma cutter wasn't designed as a weapon, it's a mining tool. And a fun fact, the idea of cutting limbs rather than shooting heads comes straight from the developer's research into real-world trauma surgery. Isaac struggles through the deserted halls, navigating broken trams and blood-drenched corridors. He discovers holographic logs, fragmented echoes of the crew's final moments. The Ishimura wasn't simply attacked, it imploded from within. Isaac quickly learns the horrifying truth. The Ishimura's mining operations uncovered something buried deep beneath Aegis 7. An artifact only known as the Marker. Now in the remake we learn the marker discovered here is an artificial copy, a red marker, not the original black marker from Earth. The marker emitted strange signals, warping the minds of the crew. First came hallucinations, then religious mania, then madness, and finally, Necromorph outbreak, a biological reformation of flesh driven by an alien will. But this wasn't random. It was engineered. And the catalyst behind it all? The twisted religion of unitology. Brought up from ages 7's surface under the orders of the Church of Unitology, a powerful religious movement that believes the marker is divine, that death is only the beginning, that convergence with the divine awaits all humanity, guided by the sacred marker. On the Ishimura, many of the crew, including key officers, were devout unitologists. Some say the marker's discovery not as a disaster, but as prophecy fulfilled. They sabotaged the ship's systems. They welcomed the necromorph infection as holy transformation. In essence, they helped doom everyone. Isaac battles through collapsing decks, monstrous ambushes, and mind-breaking hallucinations. Encounters along the way such as the Slasher, twisted former crew, their arms mutated into bone scythes. The Lurker, infected infants sprouting tentacles from their backs. The Leaper, headless, legless corpses fused into nightmare serpents. And the Hunter, a regenerative necromorph engineered from human tissue, virtually unkillable. Throughout his journey, Isaac receives video messages from Nicole. She seems alive, desperate to help. Isaac, make us whole again. But something feels wrong. Her videos cut strangely. She appears in places she couldn't possibly reach. Is she alive? Or is the marker manipulating him? Isaac pushes on, repairing critical systems, restoring power, battling increasingly grotesque enemies like the Brute, a massive armed necromorph, resilient to ordinary weapons. The Divider, a creature that splits into multiple crawling horrors upon death. One key mission involves ejecting a violent necromorph into a sealed pod, hoping to rid the ship of a particularly resilient creature. But unknown to Isaac, that pod is later intercepted by the USM Valor, a military vessel responding to Ishimura's distress call. A faithful mistake that will cost dozens more lives. Meanwhile, Hammond reveals something chilling. The Ishimura's captain, Benjamin Mateus, was murdered by Dr. Kine, the ship's chief science officer. Kine believed the marker must be returned to Aegis 7 to stop the infection. But Daniels and Hammond have their doubts. And as Isaac restores the ship's vital systems one by one, he catches occasional glimpses of Nicole, guiding him through sealed doors, whispering encouragement. Isaac holds on to one desperate hope: find Nicole, save her, escape. But the deeper Isaac goes, the clearer the signs of something wrong become. Nicole always seems just out of reach. Gradually, Hammond becomes Isaac's only true ally. Skeptical of Kendra's shifting behavior, Hammond works to retrieve a crucial piece of the marker research hidden deep within the ship. But during a final desperate mission, Hammond encounters a brute necromorph, one far larger and more vicious than before. Despite a fierce fight, Hammond is killed. His death is brutal. He died fighting not just for survival, but to expose the true horror behind the marker. Isaac is now more isolated than ever. At last, Isaac reaches the crew deck and unearths the final truth. Nicole has been dead for days. The messages, they were hallucinations. echoes engineered by the marker to guide Isaac toward its goals. Nicole committed suicide to avoid becoming another Necromorph host. Her final recorded act, injecting herself with a lethal dose, whispering Isaac's name one last time. Isaac teams up with Dr. Kine, who insists the only way to end this is by returning the marker to Aegis 7's surface. But then, disaster strikes. The USM Valor arrives, responding to the Ishimura's distress beacon. However, thanks to the pod containing the hunter, Necromorphs spread onto the Valor almost instantly, turning the rescue into another slaughter. Isaac boards the Valor, fights through its infected corridors, and recovers a nuclear warhead. Returning to the Ishimura, Isaac and Kine manage to load the marker onto a shuttle. Freedom seems within reach. But then, Isaac confronts the ultimate betrayal. Kendra Daniels was never a rescue technician. She's an undercover agent working for EarthGov, the government faction desperate to retrieve the marker for their own secret bioweapons division. Kendra kills Dr. Kine and attempts to escape with the artifact. She leaves Isaac stranded, alone, again. EarthGov doesn't want the infection contained. They want the marker's secrets, for power, for control. Isaac, broken and furious, follows Kendra to the ship's hangar. But Daniel's victory is short-lived. As she attempts to move the marker, she is attacked and eviscerated by the Hive Mind, a monstrous necromorph entity that coordinates the infection like a central brain. The final battle is colossal. Isaac battles the Hive Mind's massive tendrils and gaping maw. He dodges bone-crushing strikes and acidic bile. Every hit threatens to tear his rig apart. In the end, Isaac triumphs, blasting apart the creature's brain with his plasma cutter. The Hive Mind collapses. The marker, for now, lies dormant. Isaac boards the last remaining shuttle and flees the crumbling planet. The nightmare is over. Or so it seems. Exhausted, Isaac removes his helmet. He stares into empty space. But Dead Space has one final cruelty left. Nicole appears beside him, her decayed, twisted face lunging towards him in a shriek. Static cuts to black. The nightmare is only the beginning. Dead Space is more than just body horror. It's about exploitation of faith, of resources, of humanity itself. Corporations strip planets without care for consequences. Governments weaponize artifacts they barely understand. Religions twist people's fear into devotion. And caught in the middle are ordinary people, like Isaac, broken, used, discarded. In the end, Isaac survives not because he was the strongest, but because he refused to lose hope, even as everything he loves was torn away. Well, that's the full horrifying story of Dead Space. From betrayal to hallucinations to the last scream in the void. If this breakdown chilled you, leave a like, hit subscribe, and tell us, what Dead Space moment scared you the most? But hopefully I see you next time in our venture into the unknown.